Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Open Day webcast. I'm Professor Eleni Stavroukostea, the Director of the MSc in Human Resource Management of the University of Cyprus, that is hosting tonight's event. On behalf of everyone at the MSc program, I would like to thank you for joining us. We're delighted to host Panayiotis Thrasyvoulou tonight with a captivating presentation on the future of work and the future of HR, remaining relevant as humans. Mr. Thrasyvoulou is the president of the Cyprus Human Resource Association, presently serving his second term. After many years of working as a human resource manager in various organizations, as well as running his own business, he joined EY Cyprus as the head of People Advisory Services. It is unfortunate that we cannot host this event with everyone physically present. But even in the midst of this crisis, we're lucky that technology makes it possible for us to broadcast it live electronically. If you have any questions or comments, either about the presentation or the master's program, please use your chat option to share them with us. We will make sure to address them at the end of the webcast. Special thanks to my colleague, Konstantinos Kostogloudis, who is administrating the live event for us as we speak. And special thanks also to the Cyprus HR Association for their support. Without further delay, I will now turn to Panayiotis Thrasyvoulou for his presentation. Hello.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Cyprus HR Association, I would like to say a big thank you to Eleni Kostea and Konstantinos. A big thank you to University of Cyprus MSc in HRM for inviting me here today. Our work at the Cyprus HR Association places us in a good position to be able to provide insights into the future of work and the future of HR, of course. Our members are active and actively involved in this topic, and we gather various insights. Please feel free to ask questions or share your views throughout this presentation. I'm now going to share my screen. Thank you again, Eleni, for the introductions. So, I'm going to talk about the future of work and the future of working, as well as the future of HR. I'm going to start from the end and say that the COVID-19 crisis that we're all facing now, is creating new habits, some of which are here to stay. And they will challenge the future of working, and this is what's next. I'm not going to stay at what's next, but I'm going to go further and attempt to discuss what's beyond next. So the future of work is not only the future of working and the change in our habits as they are envisaged these days. It's a lot more things that we're going to discuss about. It's been driven by three main forces: globalization, demographics, and technology. Skills of the future are not only technological. We have a role to play as humans. We have a lot of human skills to be proud about, and those skills will become more evident and more salient as we go along. And of course, the future of HR is part of this new reality. Let me try to remove this from the screen. Sorry. So let's start from certain shifts. The shifts are changing the composition of workforce and the nature of work, and there are several channels through which this is happening. First of all, for the first time ever, we have 5 generations in the workforce coexisting together. This is a huge new trend which will affect quite a few things in the workplace. The most important of which is millennial managers. The majority of management worldwide is millennials, and millennials will be called to handle multi-diverse environments, and the leadership challenges for them will be substantial. This, coupled with the second channel, which is about the definition of employee. The definition of employee has changed. We now have at least 4 types of employee: the full-time employee, the contingent employee, the remote employee, and the robots, The robots, not necessarily anthropomorphic physical robots, but also in the form of algorithms, robotic process automations, and all the things that come along with artificial intelligence and intelligent automation. Technology, as you may be well aware nowadays, has invaded our lives. We are all trying to integrate our work and our personal lives. We are not anymore talking about work-life balance, but instead we are talking about work-life integration. Technology follows us at home, and therefore work follows us at home. And this is one of the characteristics that have been exemplified by the crisis, by the current COVID-19 crisis, and they are here to stay. Another shift which is happening is about both citizens and employees. All of us want the same digital experience and customer service we can get at home. Organizations need to provide consumer-grade experiences to employees. Municipalities and governments need to do the same for citizens. We want to experience, the employee experience is a major aspect of work, and people need to feel that they can utilize technology and integrate their personal and working lives seamlessly with the new tools that are made available. And also the ease of use is going to be profound as an issue. Another shift is about real estate. Real estate square footage per person has shrunk as flexible working becomes more and more accepted. We're going to see shifts in the way physical environments are being shaped in the future. We are going to need a new generation of digitally savvy leaders, and those digital competencies will be needed, and they're going to become essential for the future workforce. Some things are not related to technology. Organizations are going to be compelled, and they're going to fight the war for talent, and they're going to try to recruit higher level, higher caliber people. But to do that, they are not going to be, a prerequisite is not only technology, but also the answer as to why should people join us? Why? What is the meaning from what we do? So purpose-driven and socially responsible organizations have become magnets for young talent. There are tens of examples that we experience this throughout these days. One story that I recently heard was about an employee who applied at a company, at a retailer, and the employee went to visit one of the company's retail outlets, and he went to do that with his dog, and his dog was not accommodated properly, and the employee refused to apply and rejected the offer for the invitation for an interview because of that. The new generations, especially the Generation Z, are very socially sensitive, and people of all ages are purpose-driven. They need to find meaning in what they do, and they need to answer, why should I be working here? We're going to see an increased focus on innovation, and the preferences of how work is being organized will shift towards teams, semi-autonomous teams, cross-functional teams. The modus operandi will circle around teams, and this creates another set of huge challenges for tomorrow's leaders. So these are the major shifts. I started from the end, as I said. Let's go through. Let's delve deeper into some of them. But first, please allow me to discuss the current realities with this new situation and discuss what's next. We are seeing a dire situation, to be honest. Not many positive signals emerge from the media these days. If we take the example of the US as the benchmark, because usually these trends emerge from the Western developed world, we see phenomena which have never been experienced in the past. In the US, 26 million people have sought unemployment benefit since the coronavirus crisis started. 4.4 million have done so only last week. 22 million people have applied for unemployment during the last month. So this brings the percentage to 13.5% of the labor force who is out of work. And we are seeing very, very dire phenomena and very sad situation, a very sad situation. We don't want to get to the 1918 flu pandemic. Then, just to give you an idea of the extension of the pandemic back then, the average life expectancy, which is an issue we will discuss shortly about the life expectancy and its implications, was mid-50s, 55 years old. And just by that pandemic, the average life expectancy had dropped by 12 years. So this was a very dire situation, which I hope we will not get the chance to experience these days. Just to give you an idea of what happens in US households, almost 40% of adults, they don't have the resources to manage an unexpected $400 expense. So a big portion of the workforce and the population cannot manage risk and the expenses that might emerge, unexpected expenses as a result of the new way of living through this situation. So the situation is a bit not so encouraging, but that's not the only situation that affects the future of work. This is a major part of it, and some of the changes are here to stay. However, this situation exists today. Some of the things that are here to stay, one of those things is traveling. Business traveling, it's estimated that business traveling will reduce. People, employees, managers will keep business traveling to a bare minimum and reserve it only for the essential meetings. It seems that this trend is going to continue for quite some time. And of course, the non-essential meetings will be handled via the technological platforms available. Speaking of which, some testimonies that I found that I'm presenting to you. We will adopt new patterns to fix antiquated processes. Organizations will ditch the notion of having a big office and revert back to small town model of working in cluster offices with more and more remote work in the near future. Working shoulder to shoulder in open plan offices, as is the situation in many companies today, will become awkward, to say the least. And some certain changes should be made in the physical environment for us to return back to work gradually. A testimony from Microsoft, a manager of Microsoft said that since China navigates its return back to work, and we can assume that this is a time machine. So what happens in China now is going to happen everywhere around the world within the next couple of weeks, and this situation gives us some insights on what's about to happen. In China, people are returning back to work, but are still using Microsoft Teams, and there was no dip in Microsoft Teams experienced by Microsoft. So one key trend coming out of this situation is that digital transformation is accelerating. Citizens and private organizations have suddenly realized it can be done. Suddenly we are seeing government's abilities for us to make applications for social insurance. We see banks elevating their ability to handle online requests. We are seeing a lot of acceleration in digital transformation, and this will expedite the process, and this process has implications for the future of work as well. There are some mega trends of the future, which I would like to discuss with you. One big mega trend is the increase in the average lifespan. Average lifespan in 1913 was approximately 55 to 58 years. Guess what it is today? Today, anyone? Today is almost 80, and in Japan, it's already 84, provided that the pandemic does not cause a similar decrease in the average life expectancy as it did in 1918. It's projected that by 2030, most of the developed countries will have life expectancies exceeding 83 years of age. So what does that mean? What does that mean? If we combine this finding with the fact that it is believed that the first human to live more than 150 years has already been born, this is a fact that has recently been identified, because up to now, the average life expectancy was increasing steadily, but the maximum life expectancy did not increase. So it remained at around 123 or 124 years old. However, with the recent developments in biotechnology and all these related technologies, even the maximum life expectancy has increased, and it is believed that the first human to live more than 150 years has already been born. The point here to be made is that people will live longer and people will age gracefully. So what does that mean? It means that the social security systems and the social welfare systems will become unbearable to handle by governments. So governments will not be able to pay people exiting the workforce. So in our view, the argument and the discussion about whether it is morally correct to extend the retirement age limit is irrelevant. It's not going to be a moral argument. It's going to be a necessity. So another couple of trends related to this: by the end of this year, for the first time in history, the world population of people aged 65 and older will exceed the number of children under 5 for the first time in history. The world population over 65 will exceed the number of people under the age of 5. People are getting older and they are aging gracefully, at least they did until this dire situation. And within the next 10 years, most of the deadly diseases will be converted into chronic diseases. Hopefully we will get a vaccine soon for the coronavirus, but besides the coronavirus, we have cancer and major other diseases that are considered to be deadly diseases these days. But more and more we see developments in technologies that make those diseases more likely to become chronic instead of killing us directly, I would say. That's the upside. The downside of this is that the cost of treating those chronic diseases will increase to more than half of the global GDP today. So the cost of treating chronic diseases will increase substantially. In Japan, there were 10 workers for every pensioner in 1960. By the end of this year, there will be 7 pensioners for every 10 workers. So this, combined with the previous things I said, is indicative of how the situation is changing with regards to aging population and the aging working population. More and more people will be called to remain in employment, to sustain their income, and to find alternative ways of working and providing labor, because of the fact that social welfare systems will not be able to bear this kind of burden of people getting older and aging gracefully and being able to work but not working because of the retirement age. I'm not saying that this is correct. I'm just saying that this is how the trend goes and the necessity that comes with it. Some related trends that change the future workplace is freelance work. So more than half of the global workforce will be working freelance or under alternative forms of employment. So it's going to be a major trend. People working for various employers, multiple employers, and along with that comes a trend for de-urbanization in the developed world. So more and more people, more and more young people are moving in the outskirts of cities, are moving in urban areas, in nature outside of the cities, and they find it more convenient to do so, cheaper real estate, closer to the nature, and also they don't lose their ability of income generation because of the fact that with the new technological developments and the new trends in how people work, they can provide their services to various employers or to one employer remotely. In the developing world now, there is the exact opposing trend. In the developing world, we see the rise of megacities. Can anybody guess which city is going to be the world's next megacity? In which continent or which city, if you know? So this is the city that's going to be the next megacity of the world. And no, in case you answer, I cannot see your answers, is not from Asia. It is from Africa. So this city is Lagos, Nigeria. Lagos, Nigeria, back at the early days of the 20th century, had less than 300,000 people living there. Today is more than 17 million, and it's projected to become the biggest megacity the world has ever seen, with more than 50 million people residing in the city. Imagine the challenges that this creates in terms of city infrastructures, water, electricity, but also employment, opportunities, income, and all those kinds of related issues to work. So half of the world will be moving into megacities and the other half will be moving away from them based on the new capabilities. It should be said that the majority of millennials and the workforce of the majority of millennials resides in the developing world. And there is a difficulty to tap into great talent in the developed world. So millennials are going to form the 75% of the workforce by 2025, with the majority being in Asian economies. The emerging economies working population is 4 times that of the advanced economies. And we said also that there is the parallel trend of aging population as well. So what does this mean? It means that we are going to have to find ways to tap into the great talent. This talent, unfortunately or fortunately, is working at certain parts of the world, and we're going to have to find ways to utilize this talent from a distance. And the parallel trend is that very, very, very diverse workplaces will be created. So we're going to see and experience workplaces we already do with people who manage teams, some employees of which are older than their manager. Teams composed of people of various age groups, up to 5 generations concurrently. Teams whose team members, some of them work abroad, and teams which are composed by full-timers and part-timers, teams which are composed by full-time equivalent employees, freelancers, and robots in the form of algorithms or robotic process automations and artificial intelligence. So all these very, very diverse teams are managed by people who did not grow up learning how to lead those teams. And the skills needed to lead those teams are not only digital skills, they are also human skills. The ability to empathize, the skill to actively listen to people, to reach out to people, to be able to reach out to people and to affect their souls, and also to understand their needs. With regards to automation, let's discuss automation. It is estimated that there is a very straightforward trend of increased job losses up to 2027. That's a time horizon we can make predictions. But there is a parallel increase in the new jobs that are being created. And of course, along with this comes the need for new skills for both managers and employees, as well as the HR departments. What is the net impact? We have a downside of a net job loss as estimated currently, and greatly supported by those who are what we call tech substitutionists. So those people who say that technology will substitute people in the workplace. But a parallel trend, as you may be well aware, is the fact that many new jobs have been created throughout the last few years, jobs that were not really available 15 years ago, such as these jobs that you are seeing on your screens. So we have the tech substitutionist and the tech augmentationalist, as we say, people who state that technology will increase our capabilities, will augment our capabilities, and new jobs will be created at the point where the net loss will not be that severe. The truth lies in between. So to summarize the 2 arguments, many jobs will be lost due to technology and jobs will be lost, but new jobs will be created. The majority of the jobs, though, as it's becoming more and more evident by research, is that most of the jobs will be transformed. So there is a third category that says that the majority of the jobs will be transformed and augmented by technology. Our jobs will be broken down into tasks, and those repetitive everyday tasks can be taken over by technology. And those creative, innovative problem-solving related tasks will remain with us. This is the trend as it is forming nowadays. So the views on this vary. My view and our view at the Cyprus HR Association, in the way we discussed it over and over again, is that the majority of jobs will be transformed, and this is informed by research. This, for example, this research that we present here shows that robots and automation will transform at least 25% of job tasks within every job category, at least 25%. We're talking about management, about professionals, protective services, sales, and so on. So there are jobs that are more probable to be eliminated or substantially transformed by technology. You see some of them here, with a probability of 1 being the certain. We see that telemarketeers, auditors, salespersons, technical writers, real estate agents, and word processors and typists will be mostly affected by the transformation that is coming in the technology. We have a big issue with regards to skills. Skills needed to run the modern workplaces are lagging behind. There is a term about the half-life of skills, half-life of technical skills. The half-life is a term coming from biology, and basically what it says is the point in time when a skill becomes less and less relevant. So the half-life of skill is when a skill starts to deteriorate in value, and the half-life of technical skills these days is 2.5 to 5 years. That's a very brief interval, right? Besides skills, we have knowledge. So knowledge mainly provided by institutions, academic institutions. New knowledge is doubling every 2 years. That means that up to 50% of what students learn in their first year will get outdated by the time they reach their third year in a university. And I'm sure, and I know that certain things are happening here at the University of Cyprus, which tries to transform and become a new age university. And this is the right way to go about it, because most of the skills are short-lived and most of the knowledge is expanding rapidly. So that is why academic institutions are investing in micro-credentials, in so-called nano degrees, in MOOCs, massive open online courses. And people, we see institutions investing more on lifelong education, lifelong learning, and people investing more on becoming on their lifetime employability, instead of investing time in finding an employer for life, a lifetime employment opportunity. So investment in lifetime employability is becoming more and more important, and this happens not with those front-loaded educational systems, those who have a set curriculum which is fixed. Agility is the key word here, and agility is also needed in education, and educational institutions need to be agile enough to accommodate the increasing trends, new trends regarding the future of work, and becoming more and more relevant and connected with the industry. This argument is exacerbated if we analyze the US labor market. Before the crisis hit, before the COVID-19 crisis hit, as we said, there are 26 million people seeking unemployment benefits nowadays, this week. But a couple of months ago, unemployment was very, very low, at 3.6% in the US. And unemployment of 3.6% means approximately 6 million people being unemployed. That was a statistic which made the government advertise it, being proud about it, and promoting itself because of it. The truth, though, is that even back then, with such a low unemployment rate, there was a huge problem in the US labor market. And the problem is this. The problem is that despite the 6 million unemployed, there were more than 7 million vacancies. So that's a paradox, right? There were more open vacancies than there were people unemployed. And this, if someone analyzes that, I'm sure there are many more experts than me on this topic of labor economics. But if you analyze it, you can see that a big portion of the vacancies available in the US back then were because of geography. So people possess certain skills, but the jobs available were located in other states. Another big chunk of it was because of the level of jobs. Many of those 7 million jobs have to do with manual blue-collar labor, which was not interesting enough for those being unemployed. However, the biggest portion of that was because of the new skills sought by employers and are not possessed by the unemployed people. So new digital skills and new interpersonal and emotional skills, new jobs with this demand, this kind of demanding skills, there was no corresponding supply of those skills. And this is impressive to say the least. This situation, because of the concurrent trends of increased unemployment and increased accelerated investment in digital transformation, will become more severe, in our opinion, during the next couple of years. So more people will be unemployed, seeking for work. More employers will transform and invest in digital transformation, and more new skills will be sought after. So the supply will be less and less and less than the demand. Now is the time for investing in these new age skills, both digital skills, preparing us for the fourth industrial revolution, and also human skills that prepare us for the interpersonal and emotional part of the new jobs that are being created and the new jobs that are being transformed. So there is a finding that says that almost two-thirds of our children that enter school today will end up in jobs that do not yet exist, and also that there are more than a third of core skills required in the job will change, and also that what we call soft skills will become more and more important in the workplace. However weird this sounds, soft skills will become ever more important in the workplace because robots can only do so much. Robots will automate simple repetitive processes, at least in the medium term, and the skills needed by people to execute what remains will be highly human and digital. So creativity, problem solving, people management, for those diverse teams we discussed, social intelligence will increase in value. So what kind of skills besides digital? We mentioned some of them. There is research that points to some others related skills. So for example, empathy, problem solving, emotional adaptability, all those EQ related skills, so self-awareness, self-control, empathy, social skills, all those EQ related skills will become more salient. Active listening, speaking, critical thinking, reading comprehension, and monitoring. Those kinds of skills are not the typical skills someone will consider for the future. However, it seems that they are equally, at least equally important with the digital skills required for the new era. The remaining of tasks not being automated will require a high depository of those kinds of skills you see on your screens. Let's take the example of empathy. We know that college students today are 40% less empathetic than their counterparts 20 or 30 years ago. And imagine those skills that require a lot of customer interactions, those jobs that require a lot of customer interactions, and cannot be taken over by graduates anymore, because those graduates are not designed to be empathetic anymore because of the way they grew up, let alone the managerial jobs that require a lot of empathy. There were some statistics I found here and there. One of them is, two of them are very indicative. One says that Zennial, Generation Z, those people born after 1999, and they are entering massively the labor market nowadays, they affect up to 80% of property purchase decisions. So how do real estate salespeople get into their shoes, for example? Or the fact that up to half of sales professionals have never had to sell during an economic downturn, and they don't possess the necessary emotional skills like empathy to do so within this environment. This is an increased, they create an increased need to invest on those kinds of skills. Let's take the example of self-check-in at the airports. In the old times, we used to go to the airport and there were people processing us, people receiving us, taking our luggage, giving us our ticket, and waving us goodbye. The simple processing tasks. Nowadays, it's not like the airports are left void. I mean, there are people working there still, right? However, airports are investing in self-check-in facilities. And we see that in various major airports across the world, and we take it as a given nowadays. If you travel to the airport, and I think that's gonna take some time, a couple of months at least. So if you travel in a modern airport, most probably you will be called to self-check-in. You will find people working there, the skills of which must be of higher value and more complex nowadays. And the reason is that if you check in and something goes wrong, most probably you will seek out someone to help you. The person who used to receive you and process you in a simple way will now have to face your objections, will now have to calm you down, because most probably you will have a problem when you look for them. We'll have to guide you through the self-check-in process. We'll have to do it in a way that you understand it, so that next time you will not look for them. So they have to have these interpersonal skills to make that happen. My estimate is that these people are of higher caliber, and they have been cross-trained from the old situation, those of them that were up to it, of course. And maybe those people will get the opportunity to receive even higher salaries in the future when this crisis is over, because their work now has become much more complex. So overall headcount at the airports might have been reduced. However, work is still conducted by humans, and humans need human skills to do the work that remains besides the self-check-in facilities and the technology. I hope that clarifies what I was discussing, because this is an indicative example. So these new skills are becoming salient and more important as as time goes by. Now, how is the role of HR changing? What's the role of HR in all these trends, within all these trends? So HR jobs will also be transformed. So HR jobs will be broken down again. Some of them will be automated. We have amazing RPAs nowadays, robotic process automations that can automate the induction process, the processing of new employees, the onboarding process, and many other processes that can be standardized and taken over by technology. We have many new capabilities nowadays, and the remaining will be conducted by the HR professionals, and the digital skills and the people skills needed will be more important. Besides technology, and besides the breaking down of tasks and the transformation of their jobs, HR people will be called to contribute to creating a purpose-led organization. They have to become more attractive as employers, and to do that, they need to provide an answer as to why should I join you? Why should a millennial or a Gen Z should join you? We're talking about millennials, but millennials grew old nowadays, older, and there is a new generation coming in the workplace, which is more socially sensitive and more purpose-led. HR should increasingly acquire an enhanced understanding of strategy and operations. The digital transformation that is coming has to do with efficiency and automations. At the same time, it has to do with effectiveness and the setting up of cross-functional teams, flexible teams, teams with fluid membership, and all these kinds of new working practices and organizational designs. Speaking of which, HR should be able to intervene in organizational and job design so as to create experiences for employees that are purposeful and productive. HR should also invest a lot in understanding the millennials' leadership challenges. As we said before, millennials will be called to lead very diverse teams, not only in terms of age and gender, but also in terms of location, and in terms of employment type, and in terms of whether there are people and robots coexisting. So millennials need to develop their emotional and interpersonal skills to lead those kinds of diverse teams, but also their digital skills to be able to handle work-related processes that emerge from these designs. HR should also invest in agile reward programs and agile performance management systems. There are organizations whose targets are not yearly anymore. So if you set annual targets and appraise them once or twice per year, there are organizations that this process is irrelevant to them because things are so dynamic and changing that performance management should become more agile. Also, the generations being led, like millennials and Generation Z, are more anxious to get feedback, are more accustomed to instant gratification, so they are more eager to get more feedback and rewards more regularly. So we need to design programs and systems accordingly. This will be a major challenge for HR. Also, something that is exemplified by the current COVID-19 situation is the investment in new age employee well-being. So mental, physical, financial well-being will become very important in the workplace, will become very important for employment branding purposes, and HR should have an eye on this and invest a lot in preserving and elevating employee well-being in many diverse areas of well-being. Of course, HR should possess and acquire the digital skills required for the new era, advanced predictive people analytics and diagnostics. These are increasingly being provided, and people need to learn how to work alongside those tools and capabilities. Data-driven and evidence-based decision-making, predictive analytics and diagnostics give us the opportunity to be evidence-based, to be data-driven, to go to senior top management and convince with our data-driven approach, not just with our opinion or hinge. A lot of robotic process automations, RPAs, will be deployed, and the so-called HR cognitive digital assistants, not only executing standardized repetitive processes, but also making small decisions as well as to how we should go about simple processes. These are capabilities that already exist in the workplace, and HR should learn how to utilize them effectively. With regards to recruitment, there are a lot of game-based psychometric tests and assessments, a lot of new ways of assessing people in more interactive and gamified ways, and HR should learn those kinds of digital skills. Learning is a huge area of transformation. HR should learn to provide digitally enabled and agile learning on the go, learning as we move along, and skills emerging much more frequently than what they used to. HR should be on top of this process as well. And of course, as we said at the beginning, we should learn how to provide user experiences which are of consumer grade. So the human resource information systems, the HRIS of a company, should be utilized by HR in a way that employees feel that they are being treated as if they were consumers at this level and degree. So these are a few things that the new age HR manager will be called to do and will be called to learn. Very important example that brings together many of the things I've said, and which has to do with both strategy, organizational design, and the new skills needed in the new era, and the role of HR, I would say, is the example of banking, the example of banks. So banks, as we all know, they are moving away from the traditional banking model, or they are trying to do so all over the world, towards a new future banking model, which is more digitalized and to create seamless, efficient experiences for us consumers. This effort is, of course, happening as a response to the changing needs of the society and the consumer, but also as a response to the competition for banks, which is not only the other banks. Fintech is a new industry which is thriving, which used to thrive up until the coronavirus era, but I think that it still does. And it's a major competition for banks, but not only fintech. Banks should reach out of their traditional business models and form strategic alliances, because we increasingly see, not now, but during the last decade, other players entering the banking services sector, which are not traditional, such as retailers or retail FMCG, like the Tesco Bank, for example. There are new disruptive innovators, such as this company here, which has increased the signups amid the coronavirus pandemic. There are more, as you may well be aware, like Revolut or any other new provider that competes directly with banks. So banks need to respond, need to change, need to transform. And this transformation was already happening before this crisis, but the crisis forced the banking sector globally to accelerate transformation. So banks now transform to achieve efficiency and effectiveness. Not only efficiency, and this is very important, not only efficiency. Efficiency is about creating seamless experiences, is about digitalizing the retail outlets, is about creating banking facilities that are online and seamless to implement and administer. Effectiveness, though, relates to the back office, but also the head office operations, where banks should form groups which are semi-autonomous or managed differently in order to compete and create new products with a lot of innovation and creativity, and to solve complex problems, and to form new alliances, and to change and modify the business model, and to implement new technologies as well. So it's not only an issue of efficiency of the retail outlet of banks, but also the effectiveness of how the bank is designed to operate in this new era. And you understand that creating teams which must be creative for banks is a major challenge, because banks operate within a very regulated environment, strictly regulated environment, and compliance is key and is a major aspect of the banking sector operations. So they need to create innovative teams, R&D teams, business development teams, complex teams within this highly regulated environment, and empower them to make decisions without taking excessive risks, so as the bank to be in trouble, but on the other hand, with allowing them to take some risks, because this is the way competition works. And this is something which is huge. What happens for HR or for the management of the company is the challenge to bring about back-end automation and front-end shift to digital challenge, as well as collaboration, innovation, customer orientation, and complex problem solving within the banking teams that are being created. This is a major challenge for banks. This is a major challenge for the HR department of banks, who is heavily involved in organizational design. This is a major challenge to attract talent. Banks must attract talent away from fintech and other high-tech industry competitors, because those companies are their competitors nowadays. How do you attract people in this kind of environment? You have to create new experiences, and you have to be convincing about your purpose. And this is where the purpose and the meaning comes into play. People need to feel the purpose. You need to answer to people, why should they work for you? And not go to a fintech which has a purpose of changing the world, for example, in various ways. Banks need to redefine and redesign themselves for the new era. And this is an indicative example of the future of work, which affects organizational design, the way HR is working, digital transformation, and the new skills that are required to run the modern workplace at banks in order to bring about efficiency and effectiveness. So, as a last note, I would like to say that disruptive innovation, a term that we usually use these days, does not equal with disruptive technology alone. I believe that this is becoming evident today based on the things I said. An indicative example from last century is the massive transition from horse carriages to cars. The massive transition from horse carriages to cars did not happen because of technology, did not happen because of the invention of the engine, of the internal combustion engine. It happened almost brutally, I would say, immediately and suddenly, much quicker than anticipated, because of a new process innovation, because of a new business model, which back then was ideal for this transformation. Of course, today is not that ideal. It was the assembly line, the ability to sequence production in smaller steps and massively produce one single type of car, the Model T, as Henry Ford called it, one color, black. You can have any model as long as it's black, he was saying, but massively produce it at an affordable price so that the masses, the middle class, can afford it. Back then, that was the route by which massive disruption happened, and not the invention of the engine. The invention of the engine preceded this innovation decades ago. Of course, today, employees do not want to work in assembly line-like environments. They want meaning, they want enriched jobs, and they want autonomy. They want to work in groups that can make decisions, and they want to feel that they can answer the why. Why should I come to work? That model is outdated, but back then was the only way to massively produce cheap cars. And that was what brought the massive transition from horse carriages to cars. So it's not always about technology, it's also about technology, but of course it's about a new way of thinking about our business model and our processes. So, key takeaways from today. Number one, demographics, technology, and globalization will be the driving forces of transformation. Transformation will be accelerated within this COVID-19 crisis. So it's gonna be even more. Most jobs will be broken down into repetitive tasks and tasks which are highly human, as we said, not just digital skills, but also human skills. Example of the US shows us that we run the risk of ever more people finding themselves irrelevant, and they should invest now on the new skills required. Also, disruption is about more than technology, not only about technology, it's also about new business models, new organizational designs, as we said, and new human skills related to collaborating, innovating, solving complex problems, serving clients, and working in diverse groups. Another point to be made is that HR should remain relevant and transform. What does that mean? To ensure retention, HR should offer employee experiences which are similar to those related to constant movement. So people, instead of changing jobs to develop themselves, HR should offer those experiences in-house. So within their companies, they should get the opportunity to grow and develop as if they would rotate into several jobs. HR should also ensure that superior recruitment is done. And to do that, you need to offer purposeful experiences and answer why should anyone join you. So to increase your employer branding, to project the things you do that provide great experiences to people. HR should also ensure effectiveness. So to understand key strategic drivers and skills needed for the new era. And also efficiency, which means immersing oneself into automation and the digital world. So one advice I would like to give to anyone who's watching is to invest in your lifelong agile learning, invest in order to become lifetime employable for a lifetime, not just look for an employer to stay there for life. Invest both in digital and human skills, because as we have seen, human skills, the so-called human skills, the interpersonal and emotional skills needed to do the remaining parts of jobs that will be transformed are equally important to digital skills. And that's it for me. Thank you very, very much for this experience, Eleni. I enjoyed it.
I'm Julia, and I'm a student here at the University of Cyprus in the field of human resource management. The reason I chose this program is because I genuinely believe that the key for every organization's success is its people. And of course, my deepest aim is to bring the best out of them and to make a strong impact in this field. Now, what is that I like the most about this master's program is the fact that we're given the opportunity to examine many cases of real organizations and see how we would deal with such situations, because soon we're going to be consultants or HR officers, so we have to prepare. Now, as for the challenges of this program, that's a very nice question. I think the challenges is to try and create a work-life balance in our life. Try to combine our daily job with the master's program and of course our social life. So in the future, I think we'll be very prepared about that. Thanks very much, and please join us. You'll never forget it.
Hello, I'm Maria Vakola. I'm professor of change management, and I'm a visiting staff here, and I teach the course of how to manage change Change is an integral part of our organizational life, is everywhere, so HR professionals need to have knowledge and skills regarding theories and tools. So my module is about the basic theories of change management, is about resistance to change, is about organizational culture, and what the HR professionals will gain out of the course is A, know about the construct of change, and B, be able to manage change when they find their employment.
Hello everyone, my name is Koen de Wetting. I am a faculty member in HR and I'm also guest professor in the Master in HRM here at the University of Cyprus. I'm teaching the course Performance Management and we have 4 evenings together with the students to explore this intriguing domain. What we look into is the factors that are driving employee engagement and performance, and we try to investigate how companies can use these levers to make sure that employees indeed contribute more to the success of the company.